So Gaurav, you had a great run with GMAC now. Years. Thanks for coming by today. But just was curious, the acceptance of the GMAT exam in India is getting improving. So that's what we sort of observe. But really wanted to understand what do you see there, what are the news colleges where schools are getting reported, how the colleges are accepting the exam more.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, Vineet. And you're absolutely right. The GMAT acceptance in India has grown exponentially. I remember a decade ago, there were a couple of schools in India that used to accept the GMAT for their programs, not for their flagship programs, but some of them for the flagship programs, some of them for their other, executive programs. But over the last decade or so, there are over 100 programs in India that use the GMAT very actively. And I'm pleased to share that, in fact, majority of the classroom is through GMAT at these programs. Some of them also exclusively use the GMAT, but most of them have reported that the candidates that they get through the GMAT have done extremely well in the class, and their placements also have been better than candidates who've come through other assessments. So yeah, we have grown. We are still growing. We keep getting new tie-ups with schools. We keep tying up with newer programs. And we're very excited about the future because a lot of new international campuses are planning to set up shop here in India. And they've already reached out to us. They're already very eager that they would like to accept the GMAT. They want to get into a collaboration with us. So yeah, things are looking good. Our numbers are up. And in fact, even score sending to Indian programs has grown over the last couple of years as compared to how it used to be. So we are seeing a rising interest even amongst Indian candidates. And I think one of the reasons for that is it's also a factor of convenience. The GMAT exam, unlike other traditional assessments, you can repeat any day that you want. If you don't do well, you have the chance to improve your score instead of, literally sacrificing an entire year. So I think these are some of the factors that have really helped.
I mean, SC really was the first PGP program exclusively to the GMAT. And we could firstly participated is to include the But then now lately I found the IIMs with PGPX and Bangalore, Fourier or X. I'm in the and I find those programs have grown quite a bit. So, any observations you see there of the IIMs, the relevance of GMAT, especially for their PGPX program?
Absolutely, Vineet. So in fact, the IIMs started accepting the GMAT when they launched the executive program. This was in the late 2000s. I think 2008 is when IIM Ahmedabad had launched the PGPX program. And they decided then itself to use the GMAT exclusively for the executive MBA because that was the right apt test. It was the right fit. And at that point of time, the IIMs like IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta, the size of the executive MBA was much smaller. The cohort was smaller. But these cohort sizes have really grown. They've in fact doubled. Some of them have trebled from what they used to be. And they've done extremely well. Most of them rely almost entirely on the GMAT for their intake, for their pipeline. And some of them, for example, IIM Ahmedabad, as you might be aware, is setting up a campus now in Dubai for the PGPX program. Yes, so they'll be offering executive education in Dubai. So as a result, not only have the batches increased and the number of IIMs who also offer executive programs has grown. Earlier it was 4, then it went up to 6, then 8. There are now more than a dozen IIMs who are offering executive MBA, and most of them heavily rely on the GMAT. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a very, very good trend. But also we find that GMAT is one exam which has international exam. Europe, Asia, US, pretty much like, very few tests like that. City continues to be dominated by the US. GMAT is one exam which is really accepted all over the world, management programs. And in your mind, what is the value you think it's adding to an applicant's profile? Colleges say it's holistic. What do you think is the value of a GMAT score?
So the GMAT, Vineet, plays a very important role in the application. And I'd like to emphasize that while a lot of candidates end up thinking of the GMAT as only a filter for getting shortlisted when they're applying, that's not quite true. The GMAT score is something that is used by colleges, by programs throughout the journey of the program. So for example, at first, your score is looked at when they are making a shortlist. So that's the first thing that really happens. And when you're applying to any school, when you mention your GMAT score, if it's a good score, that itself helps you to stand out amongst others, especially amongst candidates who might not have written the GMAT. So there are certain schools who might not be accepting the GMAT, or it might be test optional. But if you have a good GMAT score, you're already one level above the others. So in the competitive set, you're already at an advantage. After that, even when schools run validity studies, having a good GMAT score helps, because when a correlation is done, it has been proven that you do extremely well if you have a high GMAT score in the first year of your management program. And then finally, there are a number of schools who have talked to us about placements when it comes to getting a job. A lot of recruiters ask you about the GMAT. Absolutely. And not only do they ask you about your score, but one of the questions that a lot of them ask is, how did you get admission into the program? Did you write the GMAT? So that also makes a difference, because when they are looking at recruiting amongst several candidates and they have to pick a few, again, having a high GMAT score helps over there. And the final bit I'd mention is that when it comes to any form of financial aid or scholarships, again, your GMAT score makes a huge difference. You can ask for a stronger financial aid package if you have a good GMAT score.
That we are also finding in US schools, especially. You're over the 90th percentile. These schools will give you lots of scores.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What's the role, whatever you feel, test prep is playing or helping? In what way is it helping schools who are writing the exam?
So test preps play a very critical role, actually. They play an important role, mainly because a lot of candidates actually need some form of hand-holding when they're preparing for an exam like the GMAT. While we have excellent prep that's available, and that prep is good enough for a candidate to prepare himself or herself for the exam, at times certain candidates, especially the ones who've been out of touch with academics for a while, who've been working for a while, they feel if they want to get a really good score, they can use the help of a professional test prep company. And we have some top test prep companies operating in India. For example, Jamboree itself, which has done extremely well, is one of the stalwarts amongst the prep companies that are operating. And I think the kind of packages and the kind of in-person tutoring that takes place has been good. What we have at least heard from candidates is that they have definitely had more comfort when they've gone to a prep company that has actually been able to give them good guidance, that has been able to tell them what their weak areas are, how to improve upon them. So overall, I'd say, the prep companies and in companies like yourself are doing extremely well in the industry and are doing a good job as far as candidates are concerned.